Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Saira Mujtaba, and with me is Niharika Bhuvania, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says improving air connectivity and creating new airports is the need of the hour. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar reaches Cambodia to attend ASEAN-India Summit and East Asia Summit. New Delhi calls for addressing global economic challenges in a coordinated manner. Israel's President Isaac Herzog announces to invite Benjamin Netanyahu to form the next government on Sunday. International oil prices jump by more than 3% after health authorities in China ease COVID curbs. And in Asian Boxing Championships, Indian women pugilists bag 4 gold medals and 1 silver. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi conveyed his clear intentions to transform social infrastructure, improve connectivity and modernize Indian railways. He was addressing a public gathering in Bengaluru after flagging off South India's first Vande Bharat Express train today. He also inaugurated the second terminal of Bengaluru International Airport and unveiled a 108 feet tall bronze statue of Nadaprabhu Kempegowda in Bengaluru. He said in the next 10 years, Vande Bharat trains will signify a new look and identity of the Indian Railways, as part of which railway stations are being modernized and freight corridors being developed. He said air connectivity is also seeing transformation. The number of airports in India has gone up from 70 to 140. Saying that connectivity will play a crucial role in India's development, he noted that airports will increase business potential and offer opportunities to the youth. He said improving air connectivity and creating new airports is the need of the hour.
विकसित भारत के निर्माण में हमारे शहरों के बीच कनेक्टिविटी की भी बड़ी भूमिका होगी। देश में एयर कनेक्टिविटी का ज्यादा से ज्यादा विस्तार हो, हमारे एयरपोर्ट्स का विस्तार हो, ये आज समय की मांग है।
The Prime Minister laid emphasis on developing Bengaluru along the vision of Nadaprabhu Kempegowda, who laid the foundation for building Bengaluru city in 1537.
आज हमारा प्रयास है कि बेंगलुरु शहर का विकास वैसे ही हो जैसे नाड़ प्रभु केम्पेगौड़ा जी ने कल्पना की थी। सदियों पहले उन्होंने बेंगलुरु के लोगों के लिए कॉमर्स, कल्चर और कन्वीनियंस की योजना तैयार कर दी थी। उनकी दूरदृष्टि का फायदा आज भी बेंगलुरु के लोगों को मिल रहा है।
Mr. Modi said Karnataka attracted the highest foreign direct investment last year and is a manufacturing hub for aircraft and spacecraft.
The Prime Minister says Gandhian values are relevant at all times. Addressing the convocation ceremony of Gandhigram Rural Institute at Dindigul in Tamil Nadu, he said the nation's development depends on the youth.
You are all graduating at a very important time. Gandhian values are becoming very relevant, whether it is about ending conflicts or the climate crisis. Mahatma Gandhi's ideas have the answers to many of today's challenges. As students of the Gandhian way of life, you have a great opportunity to make a big impact.
Mr. Modi said India has become self-sufficient in the manufacturing sector. He said Mahatma Gandhi's teachings are relevant in today's world. He recalled the Mahatma's visit during the inauguration of the Gandhigram Institute. Mr. Modi conferred honorary doctorate on music maestro Ilya Raja and instrumentalist Umayalapuram Sivan during the event. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Indonesia from 14th to 16th of this month to attend the G20 summit in Bali. During the summit, G20 leaders will deliberate extensively upon key issues of global concern under the summit's theme of Recover Together, Recover Stronger. Briefing the media in New Delhi, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said, 3 working sessions will be held as a part of the summit agenda, including on food and energy security, health and digital transformation. At the closing session of the summit, the Indonesian President Joko Widodo will symbolically hand over the G20 presidency to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India will formally assume the presidency of the G20 from the 1st of December this year.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a news commentary of highlights of the PM's inaugural address at the unveiling of G20 logo website as theme.
Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi unveiled the logo, theme and website of India's G20 presidency via video conferencing on Tuesday, the 8th of November 2022. India will assume the presidency of the powerful grouping from Indonesia on 1st December 2022. The Prime Minister described it as a historic opportunity for the country, especially during the year of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and said that it is a matter of pride for every Indian. Highlighting the contributions of the citizens in the launch of the G20 logo, the Prime Minister said that the government received thousands of creative ideas for the logo. The Prime Minister thanked everyone for their support and said that these suggestions are becoming the face of the global event. Remarking that the G20 logo is not just any logo, the Prime Minister said that it is a message, a feeling that runs in India's veins. He said, it is a resolve that has been omnipresent in our thoughts through Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. He further added that the thought of universal brotherhood is being reflected via the G20 logo. The lotus in the logo symbolizes India's ancient heritage, faith and thought. The philosophy of Advait, the Prime Minister said, emphasizes the oneness of all creatures, and this philosophy will be a medium of resolution of today's conflicts. This logo and theme represent many key messages from India. The Prime Minister remarked that India's G20 presidency is coming at a time of crisis and chaos. He underlined that the world is dealing with the after effects of a disruptive, once-in-a-century global pandemic, conflicts, and lots of economic uncertainty. The lotus in the logo of G20 is a symbol of hope in such tough times, he said. Throwing light on the culture of India, the Prime Minister mentioned that both the goddesses of knowledge and prosperity are seated on a lotus. He further explained the significance of the 7 petals of the lotus, which represent the 7 continents and the 7 universal musical notes. He added, when the 7 musical notes come together, they create perfect harmony. Mr. Modi said that the G20 aims to bring the world together in harmony by respecting diversity. Describing the summit as not merely a diplomatic meeting, Mr. Modi said India takes it as a new responsibility and as the world's trust in it. He said, today there is an unprecedented curiosity in the world to know and understand India. He added that today India is being studied in a new light. The Prime Minister said there is a journey of thousands of years for India to reach this stage today. We have seen highs of prosperity and also the darkest phase in global history. India has reached here along with the history of many invaders and their tyranny. After independence, we started a big journey, starting from zero, aiming for the top. All the governments and citizens together in their own way tried to take India forward. We have to move forward with this spirit today, with a new energy taking the whole world along, he said. The Prime Minister also put forward India's efforts in the field of sustainable development. We have to make sustainable development a part of individual life, which is lifestyle for environment, rather than just a system of governments. The environment is a global cause for us as well as personal responsibility, the Prime Minister emphasized. He also spoke about the contribution of Ayurveda and noted global enthusiasm for yoga and coarse grains. The Prime Minister said, India's use of digital technology in development, inclusion, removal of corruption, improving ease of doing business and ease of living can be templates for many countries. The Prime Minister also highlighted India's women empowerment and women-led development and financial inclusion through the Jan Dhan account, which will reach the world through the opportunity of the G20 presidency. The Prime Minister underlined India's endeavour that there should be no first world or third world in the world, but only one world. furthering India's vision and the common objective of bringing the whole world together for a better future. The Prime Minister gave examples of One Sun, One World, One Grid, which has been India's clarion call for a revolution in the world of renewable energy, and the global health campaign of One Earth, One Health. He further added that the G20 mantra is One Earth, One Family, One Future. It is these thoughts and values of India that pave the way for the welfare of the world, he said. Pointing out that G20 is not solely an event of the central government, the Prime Minister requested the state governments as well as the political parties to actively take part in this endeavour. He said that the event is organised by Indians and the G20 is a great opportunity for us to showcase a glimpse of our tradition of guest is God. He informed that the events related to G20 will not be limited to Delhi or a few places, but programs will be held in every corner of the country. Each of our states has its own characteristics, heritage, culture, beauty, aura and hospitality, the Prime Minister remarked. Mr. Modi informed that he will be heading to Indonesia next week for the formal announcement of India's G20 presidency. He also urged one and all to send their suggestions and express their views on the newly launched G20 website about how India can maximize its role in the welfare of the world. For India, the G20 presidency also marks the beginning of Amrit Kal, the 25-year period beginning from the 75th anniversary of its independence on 15th August 2022, leading up to the centenary of its independence towards a futuristic, prosperous, inclusive and developed society distinguished by a human-centric approach at its core.
In some more news, India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar has arrived in Cambodia to attend the 19th ASEAN-India Summit and 17th East Asia Summit. He is accompanied by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. During the visit, Mr. Dhankar will attend the ASEAN-India Commemorative Summit in Phnom Penh on Saturday. This year marks the 30th anniversary of ASEAN-India relations and is being celebrated as the ASEAN-India Friendship Year. The Vice President will also have bilateral engagements with the Cambodian leadership and the leaders from other countries. He will also visit Siem Reap to review the preservation and restoration work being undertaken by India at Cambodian heritage sites.
The year 2022 has been declared as the ASEAN-India Friendship Year as ASEAN and India commemorate 30 years of partnership. A series of events has been planned to celebrate the occasion throughout the year. As a part of this program, Indian media delegation is on a visit to Singapore and Cambodia under the ASEAN-India Media Exchange Program from 8th of November to 13th of November. On the first leg of the visit, the delegation visited the Singapore-India Chambers of Commerce and Industries and had an exchange of thoughts on topics such as India-Singapore relations, with a specific focus on business-friendly policies and the expectations of business community in Singapore from India. The delegation also called on the Indian High Commissioner to Singapore, Mr. P. Kumaran, and got a detailed understanding about how the strategic partnership between India and Singapore has shown its resilience, and both sides look forward to further strengthening this important relationship. The delegation interacted with the officials of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Communication and Information of Singapore to understand the media landscape in Singapore and the kind of challenges the Singapore government faces in timely communicating the correct perspective of people-friendly policies to their citizens. After the first leg of visit, the delegation has reached Cambodia. As a precursor to the visit of the Vice President of India to Cambodia for the ASEAN Summit, the delegation visited the Angkor Wat and Ta Prohm temple complexes and witnessed the prominent role played by the Government of India and Archaeological Survey of India in restoring these UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The Vice President would be inaugurating the newly restored portions of the Ta Prohm temple complex during the visit. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that Quad and Indo-Pacific Economic Framework have further expanded cooperation between India and the United States. She said, India deeply values the relationship with the US as a trusted partner. In her opening remarks at the 9th meeting of India-US Economic Financial Partnership in New Delhi on Friday, the minister stressed on the need to address the global economic challenges in a more coordinated manner. Speaking on the occasion, U.S. Treasury Secretary Dr. Janet Yellen said, "Strong trade, investment and people-to-people ties make bilateral economic and financial relationships a critical element to India-US partnership." She said, "The United States is eager to discuss its shared priorities as India assumes the G20 presidency." During the meeting, both sides will discuss issues of mutual interest, including climate finance, multilateral issues, India-US cooperation at G20 under India's presidency, taxation, supply chain resilience, global economy, and macroeconomic outlook. Earlier, speaking at the Microsoft India Development Center, Dr. Yellen backed India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remarks on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, saying that Mr. Modi was right when he had said that this is not an era of war. She said, "India is among the fastest growing major economies of the world, and the US focus is on deepening shared economic interests, including fuel trade." This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Israel's President Isaac Herzog announced on Friday that he will invite Benjamin Netanyahu to form the next government. It will pave the way for Netanyahu to take Israel's top job for a record sixth time and extend his record as the nation's longest-serving leader. Herzog said he will officially issue the mandate to Netanyahu on Sunday. Herzog made the announcement after meeting with all the factions in parliament, the Knesset, to ask who they would back for the Prime Minister. In a statement released by his office, he said that at the end of the round of consultations, 64 members of the Knesset recommended to the President the chairman of the Ligat faction, M.K. Benjamin Netanyahu. He added that 28 Knesset members recommended outgoing Prime Minister Yair Lapid. The same number chose not to recommend anyone. Herzog will meet with Netanyahu at the President's residence on Sunday to formally give him the mandate. Under Israeli law, Netanyahu will then have 28 days to form a new government with the possibility of a 14-day extension if required. In Israel, elections were held on the 1st of November to elect the 120 members of the 25th Knesset. U.S. President Joe Biden arrived on Friday in Egypt to attend the UN climate conference known as COP27 in the resort town of Sharm el-Sheikh. It is the first stop on an around-the-world trip that will also take him to a meeting of Southeast Asian leaders in Cambodia and a group of 20, that is G20 summit for leaders of the world's largest economies in Bali, Indonesia. Biden boarded Air Force One late Thursday. At the climate conference, Biden will discuss a new supplemental rule that cracks down on methane emissions, expanding on a similar regulation his administration released last year. The UN's Environment Watchdog said on Friday it will launch a public database of global methane leaks detected by space satellites, part of a new program to encourage companies and governments to curb emissions of the powerful greenhouse gas. The system, dubbed Mars or Methane Alert and Response System, will build on a pledge signed by 119 countries since last year to cut methane emissions by 30% this decade, a goal scientists say is crucial to averting extreme climate change. In a statement issued at the COP27 Climate Summit in Egypt, Inge Anderson, Executive Director of the UN Environment Programme, said that the Methane Alert and Response System is a big step in helping governments and companies deliver on this important short-term climate goal. He said reducing methane emissions can make a big and rapid difference as this gas leaves the atmosphere far quicker than carbon dioxide. Methane, which has a much higher warming effect than carbon dioxide during its short lifespan, is responsible for about a quarter of the global rise in temperature so far, scientists say.
In the United States, a judge in Texas on Thursday blocked President Joe Biden's plan to provide millions of borrowers with up to $20,000 apiece in federal student loan forgiveness. The program is already on hold as a federal appeals court in St. Louis considers a separate lawsuit by 6 states challenging it. District Court Judge Mark Pittman, an appointee of the former President Donald Trump, based in Fort Worth, said the program usurped Congress's power to make laws. Pittman wrote that the U.S. is not ruled by an all-powerful executive with a pen and a phone. He said, instead, we are ruled by a constitution that provides for 3 distinct and independent branches of the government. The debt forgiveness plan would cancel $10,000 in student loan debt for those making less than $125,000 or households with less than $250,000 in income.
Travelers arriving in China will spend less time in quarantine under changes to sweeping antivirus controls announced Friday to reduce disruptions to the economy and society. The announcement came as an upsurge in COVID-19 cases prompted Beijing to close parks and impose other restrictions. The country reported 10,729 new cases and more than 5 million people were confined to their homes in the southern manufacturing hub of Guangzhou and the western megacity of Chongqing. With the bulk of Beijing's 21 million people undergoing near daily testing, another 180 new cases were recorded in the sprawling city. Many city schools switched to online classes, hospitals restricted services, and some shops and restaurants were shuttered with their staff taken to quarantine. Oil prices jumped by more than 3% on Friday after health authorities in China eased some of the country's heavy COVID curbs. It raised hopes for improved economic activity and demand in the world's top crude importer. Brent crude futures rose $2.89 or 3.1% to $96.56 a barrel, extending a 1.1% rise from the previous session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained $3.24 or 3.8% to $89.71 a barrel after climbing 0.8% in the previous session. The easing curves include shortening quarantine times for close contacts of cases and inbound travelers by 2 days, as well as eliminating a penalty on airlines for bringing in infected passengers. Prices also picked up on Friday after milder than expected U.S. inflation reinforced hopes that the Federal Reserve would slow down rate increases, boosting chances of a soft landing for the world's biggest economy. The Sensex and the Nifty on Friday surged around 2%. Both indices climbed amid positive cues from global share markets. The Sensex closed near 61,800 points, while the Nifty settled above 18,300 level. The rupee witnessed the biggest single-day recovery in nearly 4 years. A report from the business desk.
Sensex rose for 1,181 points, a 1.95% to finish at 61,795. Nifty also jumped by 322 points, a 1.78% to end at 18,350. At the global stock markets, Asian stocks witnessed gains following robust gains in the U.S. stocks amid easing October inflation in the U.S. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index jumped 7.7% and South Korea's Kospi ended 3.4%. Japan's Nikkei 225 climbed at 3%, while China's Shanghai Composite Index and Singapore Straits Times Index both rose 1.7% each. European shares are mixed in intraday trade. Back home, at the multi-commodity exchange, gold futures for December was trading at 52,385 rupees per 10 grams. Silver futures for December was trading at 61,855 rupees per kilogram, and in the foreign exchange market, the rupee witnessed its biggest single-day recovery in nearly 4 years as it added 1 rupee against the US currency. The domestic unit closed at 80 rupees and 81 paise against the US dollar. Arjun Chaudhary for World News All India Radio.
Facebook parent Meta is laying off 11,000 people. It is about 13% of Meta's workforce as it contends with faltering revenue and broader tech industry woes, CEO Mark Zuckerberg said in a letter to employees. The job cuts come just a week after widespread layoffs at Twitter under its new owner, billionaire Elon Musk. There have been numerous job cuts at other tech companies that hired rapidly during the pandemic. Zuckerberg said that he had made the decision to hire aggressively, anticipating rapid growth even after the pandemic lockdowns ended. Meta, like other social media companies, enjoyed a financial boost during the pandemic lockdown era because more people stayed home and scrolled on their phones and computers. But as the lockdowns ended and people started going outside again, revenue growth began to falter. Last week, Twitter laid off about half of its 7,500 employees, part of a chaotic overhaul as Musk took the helm.
In the United States, divers from a documentary crew looking for the wreckage of a World War II aircraft off the coast of Florida found a 20-foot section of the space shuttle Challenger, which exploded and broke apart shortly after its launch in 1986, NASA said on Thursday. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said in the statement that this discovery gives them an opportunity to pause once again, to uplift the legacies of the 7 pioneers they lost, and to reflect on how this tragedy changed them. The divers were exploring the seafloor of Florida as part of a History Channel documentary. Nelson said, NASA was trying to determine whether to recover the wreckage and what additional actions it may take regarding the artifact that will properly honor the legacy of Challenger's fallen astronauts and the families who loved them. The Challenger erupted into a ball of flame 73 seconds after lifting off from Kennedy Space Center on Jan 28, 1986. All 7 crew members were killed, including school teacher Krista McAuliffe. The Japanese Self-Defense Forces and the US military on Thursday launched a joint military exercise titled Keen Sword to boost their operational capabilities and readiness with an eye on China, the Kyodo News Agency reported. This exercise is scheduled to conclude on November 19th and involves around 26,000 personnel from the Japanese ground, maritime and air self-defense forces. Also, as many as 10,000 US soldiers, including those from the elite Space Force, are also involved in this exercise.
In the Asian Boxing Championships in Amman, Jordan, Indian women pugilists Praveen Huda, Lavleena Borgohain and Saviti Bora Alfia Khan have claimed gold medals, whereas Meenakshi, on the other hand, concluded her maiden Asian Championships campaign by clinching a silver medal.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Financial Times reports that Sam Bankman-Fried's $32 billion FTX crypto empire files for bankruptcy. The Guardian reports US President Biden to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping at G20 in first face-to-face talks as president. The Wall Street Journal reports that Israel's Netanyahu set to get mandate to form his 6th government. The Washington Post writes that President Biden says US will do our part to avert a climate hell. Japan Times opines that G20 leaders set for high-stakes summit amid war, rivalries and food insecurity.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says improving air connectivity and creating new airports is the need of the hour. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar reaches Cambodia to attend ASEAN-India Summit and East Asia Summit. New Delhi calls for addressing global economic challenges in a coordinated manner. Israel's President Isaac Herzog announces to invite Benjamin Netanyahu to form next government on Sunday. International oil prices jump by more than 3% after health authorities in China ease COVID curbs. And in Asian Boxing Championships, Indian women pugilists bagged 4 gold medals and 1 silver. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Angola on their Independence Day. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.